This episode is brought to you by Marcus Rodriguez. If you're looking to buy or sell your home in this competitive market and you're not too sure where to start, look no further than Merced's preferred realtor, Marcus Rodriguez. He'll make sure the process goes as easy as possible for you, and you can reach him at his phone number, 209-554-1715, his website, www.myrealtormarcus.com, or email him at info@myagentmarcus.com. Thanks again, Marcus. This podcast is also brought to you by Alien, a new fitness wear company on a mission to support mental health. There are 7 billion people on Earth, many that struggle with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, or just feeling like you have no one that cares. If you feel this way, no, you are not alone. Alien features high-quality men and women's activewear designed to help you reach your goals both in and out of the gym. A percentage of all proceeds are donated to the Suicide Awareness and Prevention Hotline. Shop now at alien.org. That's AYLEAN.org. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the history of cameras. Cameras can be traced back to the Middle Ages. A physicist by the name of Ibn al-Haytham discovered the idea of a camera obscura, which projects an upside-down image through glass and onto a surface, while the person using it would then trace the image. It kind of reminds me of one of those old school overhead projectors. Anyways, hundreds of years after its invention, in 1826, Nicephore Niepce captured the first photograph. In 1837, Louis Daguerre created the daguerreotype, conceded much, which is a fixed image that does not fade. Later in 1851, Frederick Scott Archer created the collodion process, which reduces light exposure to just 2 to 3 seconds. And 50 years later, in the early 1900s, the first mass-marketed camera called the Brownie went on sale. In 1927, General Electric created the modern flash bulb. 20 years later, Edwin Land launches the Polaroid camera. In 1978, Konica introduced the world to the first point-and-shoot autofocus camera. And in 1984, Canon demonstrated the first digital electronic still by a camera. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk and Whatnot. I'm your host, Micah Diele, and if you're new here, this is a show where I highlight the talented individuals who live within the Central Valley of California, as well as people in general who are passionate about what they do. Now, you guys, if you guys want to help out the show, if you really want to help spread it and get it seen and, heard all throughout the Central Valley, I want you guys to please, just follow me on Instagram. That's micah.diele, MICAH.DIELE. And anytime I post a promo or anything like that, if you guys could just share it so, the other people in the Central Valley could see what this podcast is about and just know that there is a podcast in the Central Valley. Because the thing that I hear over and over from people when I tell them about my podcast is like, oh, I didn't even know there was a podcast in the Central Valley. And so I just want to, bring awareness to it and to really help out the show. And just going into the end of the year, I'm just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's been listening. I really, really appreciate it. I truly do. It means a lot to me if you're listening to this right now. And I just know there's a lot of moving pieces behind this, but big shout out to my sound guy, Duffy. Without him, this show would not be possible, you guys. So big shout out to him. Really, really appreciated of all the work that he's done on this show. And it's coming to the end of the year, and I'm just so excited. And I can't believe that, we've made it, you guys. I think we're going to be 45 episodes in. And that's, I think, what is that? 45. That's 7 less than a podcast a week, And so that's, I want to do a podcast a week, but without taking that month and a half break, I think we could have done it. But it was just a great time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know it's not the last episode of the year, but I just wanted to take time to appreciate you listeners out there because I really, really do appreciate it. Now, let's just get into today's episodes. Today, I am joined by a good friend of mine, Karel Womack. And now Karel is some of my best friends. My best friend's mom, so Tanner and Brian Womack. It's their mother, but she's actually she's been a photographer from film to the digital era, and that's why the title of this is From the Film to the Digital Era, because that's what we talk about in this episode. We sit down and we just talk about, what was your first camera, Karel? And then from there, it was a Minolta 1, which was a Minolta 100, something like that, where it's a it's a skinny camera, and it just took little photos, and she started with that, and then she ended up moving to Japan with her husband Jim, who was in the Navy, and that's when she really dove in, which was the mecca of camera gear. And so she got there, and she said she started taking photos of the bamboo forest, got a new camera, started taking a class at the Army base, and really she said that during that time everyone was learning. So everyone in that class really was just using that dark room and learning from it and learning how to do different things. And that was at the age where cameras were still developing. They had so far to go. And so it's really cool to see the change in the history of it. And so that's what we talk about. We talk about that, and then we talk about when she got her first digital camera, when she first started seeing them on the market, and then how she feels like what we lost maybe from film or what we gained from digital. And it was just a really great conversation, really back and forth. We might go a little nerdy on the camera talk, but just bear with us through it. It's a great episode, and we really, really enjoyed it. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Karel Womack. This is it. Real talk and whatnot.
Real talk. That's it. Real talk. Real talk. Real talk.
How are we doing today, Karel?
Doing great.
Why don't you introduce yourself for people who may not know who you are?
All right, I'm Karel Womack, and I'm a photographer. I've been shooting photos for a long time, at least over 30 years, probably 35. So,
really?
It kind of dates me, but I had first started shooting cameras, but it was I don't even know if you even heard one of these. It was a 110.
And there was a Canon or what?
No, it was a 110 Minolta. It was like this long, skinny thing. And so it was my very first camera.
That was your very first camera? And obviously, what year was this?
Let's see. It was probably 78.
78.
Yeah. So anyways, that's longer than what I said.
Yeah. So you got that one, and you just kind of started playing around with it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed shooting with. I've always been an artist. Or that was kind of my, what I wanted to do.
Many different types of art.
Yes,
huh?
many different types of art, and I really enjoy the art of photography.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I picked up that camera, it was really awesome. But it was a small film. But that's where you kind of start. You start with whatever you got, and then you can just work up. You find that passion, and you just keep working at it. And so. At that time, I had that small camera, and then I had a baby, and so then you have a child that you can take pictures of all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we moved to Japan, and so it's kind of like the mecca of shopping for cameras.
Yeah, or at least everything's made over there.
Yes. So we lived just like an hour and a half train ride from Tokyo, and so we were there. We got there. I don't know, 84.
And that was because Jim, right?
Mm-hmm. Jim was in the military, so we were stationed at Yokosuka, and that was like an hour and a half train ride, I think, to Tokyo.
Oh,
and so
okay.
It'd be like an 8-hour drive, but an hour and a half on train.
Really? They got their train system down, huh?
Yeah, but there's just so many people and
Yeah.
traffic, and then you can't read signs, so I mean, we could not.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I remember we went up to the giant Canon store. No, it was not a Canon store. We went up to the Minolta store there because my little camera was Minolta. So I thought, okay, we'll pursue that. And it was kind of a big deal then. And so we went up to Tokyo, and it was like this 5-story building of camera gear. I mean, you just walk in there and... wow, you're just kind of blown away. It's like eye candy everywhere. You're like, oh gosh. But I got a basic one at that time, and it was all film.
Yeah, I was going to say all film camera at this point.
Yeah. And, I feel like I got that film camera, the Minolta one, and I think it was it was a 370. It was my first one. And it was just awesome. The pictures I took was so sharp and everything, and
it's weird to look back, film cameras, because you would think, oh, we have progressed so much with technology, but there's something about film cameras when I see photos developed from them that they're just extra sharp.
Right.
The lenses are all prime lenses too, I guess, if you want to think about it back then.
I do like prime lenses.
Yeah, and that prime lenses in general, they just seem to have that sharpness, and their aperture is generally a little lower than a lens that can go from 70 to 200 or something that.
I know. I do prefer even today using prime lenses over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So, anyways, I don't even remember. I probably had a basic 50 millimeter lens when I got because we were had not a lot of money, so but it was quite the treat to be able to get that camera.
And so, did you upgrade when you were there to that next one?
I did. I upgraded before we left. We were there 4 years, and so I did upgrade.
Oh, is that how long? So you guys were there that long, and you had Amy Cheyenne by that time?
Yes.
And then you had Tara when you were there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were there for 4 years.
Yeah, Tara was made in Japan. They even had shirts that they sold at the base.
Oh, really?
For pregnant women.
Yeah, all the women of the base. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So yeah, I had gotten that camera, and then so we lived off base though for about a year and a half, and that was just really a cool place to be able to start getting more serious with photography. You know, when you're living abroad and
structurally and just the landscape, I'm sure was just vastly different than Ohio.
Oh yeah, we lived in Southern California for a long time before we moved there.
Oh, before there. So was it Ventura? Or
yes.
No? Okay, gotcha.
Ventura, Port Hueneme. Fun place to live. My favorite. But yeah, so I mean, you know, because we went to Mount Fuji and they had all these neat just things to see. I think one of my favorite things and favorite photography experience that I remember there was it was a bamboo forest, and so you had to walk down like. I think there was like 1,000 steps. I do remember the steps. They were like, you walk down forever, but the problem is, you know, you have to walk back up. And Jim was toting a kid, I think, at that time. But it was just the most coolest experience. One, it was just so quiet and serene. It was just so lush and green. But it was just a neat time to be able to.
Well, and bamboo grows just like in the shoots, so it's just like straight up. And so, I mean, photography, you learn about leading lines and everything like that. So I'm sure just like, and you can cut a picture in half by like, you know, just a bamboo stick or whatever. Right. So it probably was fun for you to play with. But like, so back then, let's say you're at the bamboo forest, you're taking these photos. Now we're in a day and age where it's just like we take a picture, we can look at it instantly.
Right.
So like take me through the process of you're at the bamboo forest, you're taking a photo. How long would it take you to like end up seeing the photo you took?
Right. Well, you know, totally depends. Like on experiences like that, when you would do a trip, you would try to get all your pictures done. You know, 36 normally.
Yeah, and that's what one film roll was?
Yeah, you could get 24 or 36.
That's wild.
And so, but you know, the cool thing about film, and I did a class a couple years ago. It was called Slow Your Roll, and it was just trying to, you know, I picked up a film camera again and was playing around. But I do find that, you know, when I was shooting film, you're very much more slower, more careful what you know.
You take your time.
Yes, you do. You take your time. You know, set it up better, you know, and just see things differently.
And because you know you only have like this finite amount of shots. So I only have 36 shots. Let me make sure that when I'm setting up for this picture that it does look good in the camera versus now, you know, it's like I'm filming.
I got 400 shots on my card.
If I'm doing photography at a wedding, I am burning through. I'm just holding that shutter down for like the kiss and other things like that. And I'm taking 36 photos.
Right.
And the new Canon R3 actually, I forgot what it does, but it can take a crazy amount of photos in a second.
Oh, wow.
It's like, I want to say it's like over 100 photos or something ridiculous like that. And that's the camera when you were talking to me, you're like, what camera I should get? I was like, I think the R3 is based on photography. And
that was sweet.
Yeah, and I assume because like the R5 and R6, like, yeah, they're expensive, but they're like, you know, like 3,000... you know, $2,500 to like I think like $3,000, which like obviously is a lot of money, but like it's kind of a reasonable range. But then I looked up the R3, and I think the starting price was like $5,000 or $6,000.
Yeah, we looked at it. You were like, you should get that one. And I'm like, okay, well, let me look. And I was like, yikes, no.
yeah, and I was like, oh, never mind. I thought it was going to be more reasonable than that.
If I worked more, earned more money, maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
No, I agree. So let's get back to the developing the photo. So you have like those 36 photos, right? You're setting up the shots, you're taking your time with them, and now post-production for photography was a lot different than it is now.
Oh, yes, it was. And for, you know, when I first started there, of course, I had to send them out, and, you know, you could take it to the local store on base. We call it the Nex.
And were those just all dark rooms? Like
no, they would, you know, you would just drop it off, and they would develop it for you at that, And then after a couple years, I got into they offered a lot of like college classes there on base, and so I was able to take a photography class. And so actually, there was only 3 of us, and so they had a full setup of darkroom there on base.
Really?
And so it was just us 3, just always playing in there and
that's cool.
Experimenting, and so it was really a neat opportunity.
And did they have an instructor too?
Yeah, he wasn't. He was just kind of knew a little bit.
He was assigned that position, and so he was like.
So he kind of, I'll try this. I've done it before, Yeah. And so we were all in there, kind of totally
experimenting, learning.
Yes,
that's cool.
We did that. That was it was a lot of fun. I have a lot of there's sheets where with all your pictures on
the rolls, right?
Mm-hmm. You could do like what do they call? I can't remember. Just like a little sheet, and it has all your pictures, but you also have your film negatives as well, which last forever. Which I honestly like that too. I don't mean to jump around.
No, go ahead.
But with my hard drive, I've had it crash.
Yeah.
Twice. And I have to take it to I have this guy, and he helped me retrieve. I don't think I've retrieved all of them.
Yeah.
So you like film negatives will last if you
take care of
store them well. They last forever.
And so with storing negatives, what is it that you don't want to do, right?
Well, definitely you want to keep them, in a closed
dark area, right?
Yes, and without moisture, stuff like that.
But you still have like your
I still have I have boxes of photos and negatives, which is so cool because I could still go back and find them. And get them. It might take me a lot of time.
Yeah. but so does looking through all your hard drives, looking for specific photos.
Right.
And then you're just blaming yourself, like, why didn't I organize this better when I was...
Micah, I have 4 hard drives. I'm going crazy.
Dude, I just got to my 3rd hard drive, and because I do so much video work, and I overshoot. And I'd rather overshoot than undershoot.
And I think we tend to do that with digital alone, but
because you have the capability of doing it, so you're like, why would I take less? And then it's funny because I'll compare myself to Jimmy, and we'll be shooting like the same event, and I'll have like double his stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, man.
I didn't want to miss any.
Yeah, exactly. But so when you get to the dark room, so kind of, do you remember the process of like taking your film and developing it?
So when you get into the dark room, you have to take your little film canister thing, and then you take it into the very dark, where there's no light. And there you run it in a bath. And
I always see people with the water and stuff, right? Yeah.
So you have certain chemicals, and then a bath that you have to rinse it out. And then we had this giant projector thing, and I'm sorry I don't remember the correct term.
Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about that.
So it would... you put it under, so you could blow it up. So it's just, I'm using my hands, and you guys can't see my hands.
No, some people can, some people
so
can't.
It's like a projector, but anyways, it hovers over you have a flat platform, and then you can expose your paper there and stuff. So it was just a fun time. So basically, what we did in that dark room, though, we only did black and white at that time. We didn't have the color chemicals with us. And since it was a class, and then we got to play.
Limited supply and everything. Yeah.
And colored film developing is a lot more involved than black and white. And so.
Yeah, exactly. And so, because when did color come around for you?
Well, color was available then as well.
But just in your guys' dark room. But just in your dark room, you only had access to the black and white.
Yeah, we only had that capability, the equipment that we had. But it was just a really neat, fun time. And plus, I had kids to shoot. So, and you ask, one of the questions sometimes is like, what is your favorite thing to shoot? Well, I do love shooting kids, but, I really love the excitement of doing weddings and, I don't know, people generally.
Yeah, so you like portraits a little more?
I do, I think. Yeah. But I do really love hiking and just
landscape shots and stuff. Yeah, and landscapes are just a little more fun because you can be creative yourself on it. It's up to you to kind of make the shot. Where people, obviously it's up to you to make the shot too, but like in live events of weddings and stuff, you can only do so much.
Right.
Unlike,
and then sometimes you do portrait jobs and people are just uncomfortable and it's more stressful for me.
Yeah, it's like it's whenever like I don't know, I'm not a big portrait person. Like I will take portraits of people. I don't mind it.
Right.
I don't specialize in portraits per se. You know what I mean? I don't think that's like one of my selling points. But sometimes people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I like your work. Learning to take pictures of us." I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." But yeah, when every now and then I've gotten like someone who's if they're awkward themselves on camera, it's like like, and sometimes I'm just like, "Hey, just get in your." I always start out like that. Just whatever feels comfortable to you, let's start with that. And so let's get into that. And if they are still not comfortable, I'm like, there's only so much I can do on my end, you guys, if you are awkward, like this awkward.
And I think sometimes it's worse when they're kids and they're mad that they're there.
Yeah, exactly. And then they have to be their parents and dealing with that.
Yes, and I try all my tricks in my bag. And so, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And you got to be really quick with kids.
Yeah. I have my shutter higher when I'm doing some kid stuff. I'm like, hopefully one of these is okay, you guys.
Sorry.
No, you're good. And then, so let's say you got your 36 pictures, you're taking them to get developed, and then you run through the dark room and everything like that. How do they get into like a picture format?
Okay, so after you develop it and everything, and then you have your big projector, and then so you have your different paper sizes, and then you can burn it onto the paper through. So you put your negative into the projector, and then you can burn it into the paper. You exposes it,
and then with the chemicals and everything, it kind of shows up where the lines are in the photo.
Right. And as far as film versus digital, you really do get more of a range of black and whites in film.
Yeah, that makes sense too, because I mean, it was initially reading like black and white, like so, and that's funny, or it's interesting you say that, because the tools that we have in Lightroom and Photoshop in turn are like almost darkroom tools, because you have like a burn tool in Photoshop. You have like, you know what I mean, like these other tools that essentially you would do Photoshop type things, because one of the things I read about was Ansel Adams.
Right.
And one of the things he used to do was like, he was like super ahead of everybody else in the dark room.
Yes.
And so he would literally like get photos and like bring fire to them and like burn some things to make the bottom way more darker to contrast up into the light stuff.
Right. And so with your projector, and thank you helping my mind work. You expose it, you can cover up areas and have certain areas more exposed, and with a paper or whatever. That's how we did it. And then, or you can, keep something covered that's already you feel like is kind of blown out or whatever. You don't want more light on it. But other parts. So.
That's so. I mean, it's so funny to me, like, because like I mean, obviously, like I knew that photography obviously had this whole stage before like the digital era, but I've only come to it during the digital era, so that's all I've ever learned. But it's like, it's so interesting to see the post-production like back then was, I mean, you're doing the same things that you're doing now on the computer, but you're just physically manually doing those things. And I think that we're in a society in an age where like digital came so fast. Right. And so it was just so rapid that like now taking a picture on your phone and you have an instant link and look at it and then send it to your computer.
Some of those phone pictures look just better out of camera.
Yeah.
You're
sometimes
like,
I'll take a photo with my phone and I'll post it, and some people are like, "Oh, that's a great photo with your camera." I'm like, "Yeah, right." Like phone cameras are so great.
I know, with that portraiture setting, you're just like, can't compete hardly. But I mean, we can because we can do it better, bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
and do you think we lost anything like when we transferred to the digital age, like from developing photos? Because obviously you were a little more hands-on with the whole process, and now we take the photo, plug in our microchip to our hard drive to our computer, and
I feel like
them.
we have. I feel like you just the appreciation of the art, maybe, just training your eye. Even I feel like you can pick up a digital camera and get a lot of good pictures, but how many did you have to take or whatever?
Yeah.
But, I feel like you would compose it more carefully when you did film, and then you couldn't see it. So definitely you would have to, you would have to know, you have to learn, your exposure settings and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And so so right now we have,
there's a sunny 16 rule.
Uh-huh.
Like if it's super sunny, you would set it at 16, and then your aperture, and then, you kind of, whatever the formula was, I don't remember it because I haven't used it forever.
Yeah, exactly.
I picked up a film camera again, so I need to, look at, remember those things more. But yeah, I feel like it's a lot different. And then you have to wait, it's not immediate usually. So I feel like,
it's just patience, honestly. Like, it was a lot more patient of a hobby. Like, it wasn't take photos, let's go edit them.
Right.
It's like slowly, like you're saying, set up your shots, take the photos,
right,
and then wait till your film's full. Because if you didn't, obviously, if you didn't like,
you don't want to waste your shots.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, let's say you only take 15 photos, you're like, well, until I fill up this film, like, I'm not going to go develop it and waste my film. And then, because my friend Daniel, he's really into film cameras. So he has a whole bunch of film cameras. He uses them. And it's pretty cool because he has this one camera, and what it is, it has 5 different lenses on it. And I forget what it's called, but it takes a picture basically 1 second apart from each other.
Oh, wow.
So it'll take a snap, 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 snap. And now, like, it used to basically, before then, it was just kind of a way to show like a quick shots of it. But now what you can do with that is take that file, put it into the computer, and you make almost like a boomerang where it's like these 3 photos, like going back and forth. It's like a GIF going back and forth. And so it's kind of interesting to see how film is being used in the digital age and like still becoming relevant.
Oh, I know. That's a lot of creativity happening.
Yeah, exactly. And then so for the film cameras, there's light meters, obviously. Like we have light meters on ours, and it tells us when something's perfectly exposed. There are those light meters, right?
They're handheld. I mean, they back then they was a separate entity itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I mean, there's on your lens, you have your preview button, and that gives you a good idea, making sure that your exposure is proper and everything. But no, and we used gray cards too back then to set your. So and it was a much more learning experience, because you would take pictures in certain setting and use your gray card also, and then so as you develop it, you can see maybe. If you
where you had it a little
how
off.
you need to adjust or whatever. So I mean, it is much more learning. I think back then, and
just,
more of a craft. I feel like today with our digitals, it's not like that. I mean, we are photographers and we can put out a good product, but I feel like there's definitely something lost in that.
For sure.
Art,
no, I agree.
Yeah.
And it's even like, I'm sure you can compare it to like a lot of things that, used to be, but I'm sure like working on an engine, 40, 50 years ago compared to now, like they could look like 2 completely different things.
Right.
And now our cameras are doing the same thing where it's like, our cameras, like, it's great because the technology has allowed our camera to figure out everything itself inside of it, which is everything you could dream for a photographer. But in doing so, you lose kind of that connection to the art, the connection of doing the piece by piece things to it. And so
I feel like it's more organic.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love that word, but I think it really describes film.
Yeah.
It's definitely it's more natural. Type. Where you have to really engage.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're just shooting on film, you're learning it, and then when do you see like a digital camera?
Oh, they had been out for I don't know how many years, but finally, when I went to I got a basic, I believe it was a Canon, and so it was a bit of a disappointment I mean, it was so very exciting, and it was like a beginner one, like one you could buy at Costco or something, kit type thing. But I felt like, and I used basic Photoshop back then and Bridge, which I don't use Bridge anymore, but I
haven't even heard of Bridge.
And I think Bridge was like your library and you stored all, it's like Lightroom, but you couldn't edit in Bridge, but you have everything there.
Connected to it, gotcha.
So it was connected to Photoshop. But and maybe it was just it didn't feel like it. Well, first, before I went to the digital, Micah, I had my first film was fully manual, and then I went to automatic focus one in film, which was a disappointment there because I realized nothing looked quite as sharp as my first camera.
Yeah.
And when I went to digital, I was thinking that wasn't as disappointing, but it was very different, and that's when I felt like I think we get lazy.
Yeah.
Made me lazy, and I just take lots of pictures.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was a Canon. Do you remember which one it was?
I think it was like the Canon Rebel.
Oh, it's the one that you gave me. Is it the one that you gave me?
Yeah, I think so.
That gray one?
I might have had one right before that.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Because the one you gave me, when you're like, I have a camera I can give you, I thought it was going to be a little newer, honestly.
Oh,
well, because
it was that.
it had the huge memory card. It was like normally now we have like tiny little memory cards. You put it in, you have 128 gigabytes. This was a huge memory card and it had 1 gigabyte on it.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And I was like, what is this?
Very archaic.
Yeah. Carol's like, you're going to learn, boy. Because you gave me that. And I took like a few pictures with it, but then I was like, I got to buy a camera.
Well, you were used to having all these other,
Yeah, exactly.
seeing them around. Back then I was not, so it was pretty cool.
That's funny. And but like you're saying, like you had kind of seen digital cameras, but they weren't too popular amongst photographers because they were still lacking that quality that film cameras were.
Right, I think so. The pixels, you just couldn't get that same saturation. It's not
just
saturation.
the look, yeah, no,
resolution.
Just the resolution, yeah, exactly. And I read an interesting fact when I was like, just reading different stuff about film and to the digital era is that during 9/11, like the 9/11 terrorist attacks, almost every single picture taken of the Twin Towers was taken on film cameras.
Oh,
like the market hadn't the era of digital cameras hadn't turned yet because 2001 still. I mean, we're pretty close to the 90s there, and I'm sure people who had been professional photographers for that long, were like, I'm not going to switch over if this quality isn't there yet for digital cameras. You know what I mean? I'm going to stick with this film. Yet, like to think about that, and then 10 years later, we're having smartphones come out, we're having Instagram, Facebook, and the whole, what digital cameras were and just what digital photography is today was like, it's just crazy to think that in those 10 years, like, it almost seemed to completely transform.
Yeah.
And did you just see that rapid development, like, occur? Like, was it because it seemed like they grew real quick during the, 2000 to 2010. It was just because, there's always something to improve on to try to get to that.
I know. I felt like during that time, I was always, reading articles and coveting all these new and better improved type cameras, coming out. But yeah, I think it did.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly it has. Even I have the Canon 5D Mark III, and it's like 28 pixels, megapixels. And so the Mark IV is like 30-something. I mean, so it will keep progressing,
and I think what's weird about mine is I think mine's 30 megapixels or something like that, and it's the EOS R, and it's like... I mean, it's a good camera too, honestly, if you would want to, because that's good for video and photography. But also, like when it comes to megapixels, if something's 28 megapixels or if something's 30 megapixels, the consumer's not going to know the difference. You know what I mean? I don't even know the difference. You know what I mean? Like,
I know. So do we really need to keep going bigger and better?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I always think too, because I'm like our phones take 12 megapixel camera. I mean, 12 megapixel pictures, which is still obviously it's really good. That's what my drone takes. My drone has 4K video, but when it comes to photos, it's only a 12 megapixel one. So, and for people listening who may not know what 12 megapixels is, so 12 megapixels, it's a smaller photo size. So when you try to blow up to a bigger photo, the resolution isn't going to be there as much. But if you have a 28 megapixel or 30 megapixel and you want to make it a huge photo and print it, it's going to be that same quality, but bigger.
Right. Sorry.
No, you're okay.
So I wanted to tell you too, I was reading for medium format. Is that possible?
You could turn just.
I left it on. So
Carol, this is my podcast. You're ruining it right now. I'm just kidding.
Oh, it'd be him.
Oh, Tanner. Tanner's calling you guys.
Oh.
Tanner, she's busy right now on this podcast, okay? You can listen later. You can talk to your mom later. No, I'm just kidding.
But this is fascinating because I was reading for medium format, it's capable of like film, medium film format is capable of over 800, comparatively megapixels.
Oh, really?
Yes, I mean it just gets it that much. That has much more resolution.
Yeah,
sharpness.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, you wouldn't think that would even. And it's cool too that technology like this exists, or like it's cool that when you look back, is sometimes like you can advance all you want, but for whatever reason, the way that cameras came to be and design, like they were built that certain way to do these certain things. And when you go to digital, you gain a lot, but you also, like you're saying, you lose a lot throughout the process of it.
I think so. And you can get a lot fancier with your sharpness on your photos when you develop digital by stacking and stuff.
Yeah, stacking.
I have not done that. I've read about it.
Yeah, so
I'll play around.
I'll explain what stacking is to people. So stacking pretty much is when you take 3 different photos. So you get a tripod, you'll set your camera up on it, and so we do it a lot for real estate photos. So real estate photos were inside a house, and so we have like window light coming in, you have the lights inside the house coming in, and what stacking allows you to do is it takes a photo perfectly exposed for like what your camera reads it as, and then it takes a photo underexposed, and so that allows the window light coming in to get that to look like what it should look like, maybe see what it's outside instead of a blown out window, and then it takes a picture overexposed as well. And so when you go to post-production, you combine that photo together, and what you get is basically a perfectly exposed photo. So you get exposed for the windows, exposed for inside, and exposed for like anything else that might have been different if you had not stacked
Pretty
them.
Amazing, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's really cool that stacking is a thing. And like the USR has this thing, and like you can stack it, but it always turns into a JPEG image.
Oh, okay.
And so like that's cool, but like it's cool for real estate because it's like, I mean, you don't need the best quality photo or you don't need a high quality photo, or you know what I'm saying,
right?
For it. But then, do you think there was a time when, like, I mean, obviously, like, film is making a comeback now, and I want to acknowledge that because I know if some people are listening, they're like, film's coming back.
Right.
But we are at a point of no return in the sense of, like, we're always going to, maybe there's not going to be new film cameras getting developed, you know what I mean?
Right.
And maybe there's always those Fiji film ones, the little Polaroid ones that are always going to be popular because everyone loves Polaroid. Right. But do you remember, like, a time when you're like, oh, like, I got to get with the digital era because it's going to like continue to progress and progress?
I think so. Maybe not necessarily in that line of thinking that it's just going to, but definitely I need to stay on it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially as I get older, if you don't pay attention, things are just going to like become, 5 times as complicated as if you just kept at it. And so, I just do remember just the digital, it just totally was amazing and new, and I certainly wanted to be on that, doing that, and so I remember getting that. And then once I had one, of course, so my 5D3 is my 3rd digital camera, and I just got the Mark IV as well.
Oh, you have that one too? So, but you've just been using this because you're familiar with it?
Yes. I thought I would, for the videography that I have to do, yeah. So, but yeah, so, it is crazy because they are big, and for the cost of film cameras, now you can get a really nice film camera off of eBay.
For cheap, too.
Yes. And so, I mean, it'd be
nobody
cool
knows
to have
really,
a Hasselblad.
Yeah, no one really knows, like, what the price range of film cameras are supposed to be because it's almost like such a niche that you got to have somebody who wants to buy that camera. Right. But if you just have this camera laying around, you don't know what it is, you'll sell it to somebody for like $5-10. And like I used to always go to the flea market when I lived in Turlock, and I'd always see like so many film cameras. But I don't know anything about film cameras. Right. And there's like old lenses too that they had, and they would sell it for dirt cheap.
And those old lenses are nice, dude, class.
I've seen people get mounts for their cameras that allows them to put old prime lenses on and old different lenses. And
nice.
It just gives you a vintage look too, like almost like Tarantino movies because those are all shot, or not all, but most of them are shot on film. Yeah, still. And so, and 35 millimeters too. Like back then, I don't know. I love 35 millimeter lenses. It's like the perfect lens to me. Like for like weddings and stuff.
Oh right.
It's like all you could ask for.
I know. I use mine most, I think.
It has the nice compression on it, but then it also like is wide enough to where you don't feel like you're going in too much to someone's face or anything. No, I really like that one. And then like, so obviously we've been talking about photography this whole time and like the different things that make it what it is basically today. But to you, like in your opinion, like what makes a good photographer? Like, is it somebody that takes their time? Is it somebody that learns or whatever? Like what is it to you?
I think a lot of it is just, learning the art of composition, and being able to be creative with your own style as well. Some people like it more dark, just in the developing realm and stuff like that. But also, I think a lot of it is, just, one, being a good, like if you hire somebody, you want to be able to have that follow through and everything. And then, just being able to catch, understanding what your client wants or, if you're as a photographer that's working, doing those things. But I feel like, is that you?
That's you. It's okay. Don't. It's on silent. You're a popular person, Karel.
Not always.
When people need something, huh? It's like a mom thing. It's like,
yes,
I'm super popular when you guys.
I
need
know, because
something.
Cheyenne texted me right when I sat down, and Tanner calls me, and I don't know, it might be Jim. But yeah, I don't know. But I definitely think it's art, and so I feel like you have to have that your own vision of a vision of what you want to capture and being able to capture it. And, like photographers that have that good eye and passion for it, it really just allows you to bring out, like if you do people, to bring out the emotion, the joy, those things. If you're doing landscape, just to bring out that beauty. And I think a lot of it, half of it certainly is the moment of capturing the photo and stuff. And then also now as a digital photographer, as we develop it and stuff. But I definitely think being a good photographer begins behind the camera.
Yeah, it's learning the basics. And like the first thing when I was getting into photography, like or seriously getting into it like 2 years ago, it was just knowing, what ISO is, knowing what aperture is.
Understanding your equipment for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But what is it? ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. And like knowing those three things. And you have to like ingrain what those do and when you use those.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I understood what shutter speed was and ISO was, but aperture always confused me because I was like, what is it? Like, I just don't get it.
And then the numbers are kind of backwards.
Yeah, the numbers are, you want a low aperture, or the lower the aperture, the more light that gets let in the lenses. And so I was always confused by that. And then I got an f1.4 on my 35.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I I realized the difference between an f4 and an f1.4.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like they're 3 numbers apart. So how different could that be?
Right.
But it takes I did a shoot at the Mainzer yesterday.
It makes it faster.
Yeah, for video wise, it's like, it makes so I would have normally had to put my ISO up to like over 1,000 for this specific thing I was filming yesterday because it's dark at the Mainzer. But I move it to 1.4 and I only have to go to ISO at 400.
Right.
So it changes it that much.
Right.
And when you raise up your ISO, you lose quality in your video or in your photo. And obviously some people like grain, some people don't. But for the sake of the photographer, you never really like grain unless you're like, I add it in post sometimes, you know what I mean? To get that film grain
unless you're
look.
trying to get that artsy kind of
exactly.
look.
It just really depends on what it is. And then have you ever got like any of your bucket list shots? Did you have any of those like throughout the years? Like, and you got to do them? Like, I'm sure like for a lot of photographers, like for me and you, I'm sure Firefall was one of those, you know, to capture
actually,
that.
I'm planning on going back. I'm thinking I want to shoot it in film as well.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
I'll probably do both. I mean, I have 2 tripods, but I definitely, I've been excited thinking about that. And so, yeah, I need a different composition. I went 2 days.
That's exactly what I was about to say right now. Is like, I got the kind of classic bottom right look of it, but I've seen other people do like on the top of 4.5 Mile Trail or just other areas. And it's just like, it looks a lot different.
Right.
Or it just, you see the same our shots like kind of common a lot.
Yes.
But like the shots that really stand out is something that's like way far away. And like I remember I texted you about Firefall. I'm like, oh, do I need my 70 to 200, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, I had mine. You had the 70 to 200, but you had it on 70.
Yes.
Like, you don't need to zoom in that far for it.
Right.
And I was thinking like, oh,
unless
I need to
you're
get
farther.
Yeah, unless you're farther. But I've even seen some wide photos, like on a wide lens taken from far away. And it's cool because you get to see the whole valley. And then you see
that would be very cool.
Then you see the Firefall
That's
happening.
such a phenomenal thing.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
So cool. We got lucky last year.
Yeah, like we did. And then for anyone listening who doesn't know what Firefall is, there's a waterfall in Yosemite called Horsetail Falls. And in February, if there's enough snow melt, the waterfall is flowing. And what happens is the sun is basically in this perfect position to where in the evening time when the sun's setting, it shines light in this one crevice where the waterfall is falling. And it makes it glow orange, almost like lava's falling through from the...
It's definitely...
It's
God art.
It is. Yeah, it's just like one of those things where like you can try to take the best photos or edit them in a certain way.
Because the year before it didn't happen because it was the drought year.
Yeah,
and so there was no water. Mm-hmm. And even as you're sitting down at the bottom of Horsetail, people would walk up, or and they were like, "What are we looking at? Where's it at?" Because you can't even see the water during the day.
Yeah, I know. And but I did see some people take photos of the drought year of it. And although there's no water flowing, it still looks cool because that rock is like glowing orange still. It's still the glowing orange, but it's just not the Firefall.
They didn't have the same.
Yeah, it is. It's different, but it's the same.
Oh,
but
good.
Is there any other bucket list shots that you've kind of got to do, like whether you're like living in Japan or... You've been on plenty of road trips around the country.
Yeah, those things usually leave me wanting to go back and do it again.
Yeah. They
I mean, Zion, I would love to go walk, do the Narrows. I did the hike, the Angels Landing, which was so cool. And that was really fun to be able to, but, I was more focused on the hike, but I had my camera with me. I would like to take some different pictures.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
But yeah, mostly, I really love to get those epic couple shots in the sunset. And, like I shot the wedding in Jamaica and I really, it was hard getting them to go back outside. It was almost too late, but we did get a couple of nice, evening sunset pictures while the sun was already, but it still had that nice glow.
Yeah, just golden hour.
Yes.
Golden hour is so crucial for everything. And then,
I just love those. And, one of my bucket lists, too, is to get pictures of Amy and Graham's family all looking quite happy. He makes me nervous.
Oh, that's funny. No, yeah, because me too, it's like what you're saying, like whenever you go somewhere, I feel like I'll come back and I'm like, man, I should have done this or I should have done that. And it's like one of those things that where if you're going with like people who are just hiking or if you're going with people who are... they're just going for the moment. It's hard to get yourself into like, oh, I got it, like photographer mindset, honestly.
Or when you're the only photographer and everyone's like, you can feel their heavy side.
Yeah, like, are you serious? Are we still waiting?
Like, can we stop? Can we just stop? I've probably said that over 1,000 times sitting in the car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I always feel that way too when I'm driving, and then every now and then I will stop, and then I just feel like I'm a burden, like to everybody else in the car.
Absolutely. So I definitely didn't. So I did a road trip by myself. Well, a couple of times. One from St. Louis after Brian got married, and I was really bent on getting pictures of wild horses, and had read there's a couple blogs on where to go find them. I was driving Amy's Tahoe. And it said I found the road. It was up on BLM land, and so it was a dirt road, and I had to invest 18 miles in this thing. So I'm driving Amy's Tahoe, and it's not a 4-wheel drive, and I get like over 8 miles in, and hit some really soft sand, and the dust was so fine. I think it took her 2 years to get, inside the door frame and everything to get that silt or whatever it was. But anyway, finally I thought I had to turn around. I'm going to ruin her car. But yeah, but I finally did get to do a wild horse shoot.
I think I remember you those
February.
Photos.
Yeah.
And where were those at?
Those were in Nevada.
Oh, okay.
Right. I can't remember the town, but yeah, I saw this magazine. We were in Bridgeport, and it had a picture of someone we know here in Merced, Rob Strickland, and then it had this guy who took wild horse pictures, and he said he would start him up soon. So when I got home, I emailed him, and so anyways, we was able to go in February. And so a couple of my friends went with us, but one, Vicky Strickland, she's a photographer as well. And then Jean, she just loves horses. But it was like $300, and he said for 1 or 4 people. I'm like, cool.
Regardless of how many?
And so
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a great photographer himself of wild horses.
So he kind of takes you on a little tour, shows you.
Yeah, we saw 3 different bands. And it was just really cool. 3 different stallions, and he would follow them, but, he had to drive around to find them. But it was really cool. And I need to do over on that because, I was so excited to see him. Yeah. I didn't capture anything really spectacular. I was just so excited.
You were in the moment. And, hey, sometimes that's what you need to be. But that's what I like. Photography is, like, one of those things where... or photography and video where you can be so caught up in capturing the photos and everything that you feel like you didn't really experience it.
I know, right?
But on the contrary, when you get home and you're editing photos, you kind of can feel like, oh, I got to experience it and keep it forever.
Right.
And so it's a little bittersweet thing because...
I know, I work on trying not to...
I try to enjoy it while I'm there, but I also try to get good shots. Yes. So it's a very hard balance. Right. And I think every photographer kind of struggles with that good of a balance. And just like you're saying, when you have people with you who aren't into photography, that's why, like, it's cool, like, when me and Jimmy go on a trip or, me and whoever else, my photographer buddies, like, it's cool we can all focus on this and we all have this kind of mindset. And then you see somebody else getting this shot like that and you're like, well, what can I do to get this shot differently? Kind of gets your mind going in a different way.
Absolutely.
Where sometimes if you're with some people, you're just taking, like, the generic shots and you're not trying to
I feel like I do that a lot because I'm with people that don't do photography.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I want to just capture what I see. But, definitely would be if you could just really let your creative self be there and in that moment to, get those shots, it'd be very different.
Yeah, because I would even like to go, like, around downtown Merced and just get a group of, like, 15, or it doesn't have to be 15. If I could get 5 to 10 photographers, you know what I mean? We go, yeah. But exactly, get like 5 to 10 photographers and just walk a loop around, because downtown Merced has so many architecturally great things.
It does.
So whether it's the Tower, Tioga, El Cap, Mainzer, whatever it may be.
I know. I love all your photos of, like, reflections.
Yeah. Oh,
I love
reflections
those.
That's something I learned from Jimmy. But you get low, get next to a puddle, and you can really, like,
I know.
The whole thing
throw
transforms.
Water on the ground.
Even if you throw water on the ground, like, it just can transform it. But I love right after a rainy day, you go out there. Generally, there's still a whole bunch of clouds that are, like, if the sun's trying to peek through and everything, it just adds a lot of character to all your photos.
Oh, it does. It's fun. I know a couple years ago, I drove after it rained. One of my favorite drives is, like, going towards Cafes Valley. And so I went down there, and there was this ranch off one of the side roads, and it had giant puddle, and then the mountains and the clouds. It's just like, oh, I want to do that again, because that was really kind of that first time I did it there, and I got so excited. I have nice reflection shots, like from like the Half Dome or on the Merced River.
Right there. Yeah, exactly. I know that was one of my bucket list shot was the bridge right over the Merced River, and it's like the bridge, and I got a car going over it with the reflection.
I like that picture
with the reflection of Half Dome, and that's one of those ones that's like, okay, I want to get this shot. Like, I've seen this shot. Obviously, like, it's in Valley of Yosemite. It's going to be a popular shot. You know what I mean? But, like, I've been to Yosemite so many times, I just still didn't know where that shot was taken.
Right.
It's like I knew of the area, I just had no idea where it was specifically taken. And then finally, it was like in wintertime, so right conditions, the river's calm, and so there's reflection you can be seen on it. Because if you go when it's too busy or when it's flowing too heavy, you can't see the reflection on it.
Yeah.
And so it's like all those little details that sometimes you're at the right spot at the right time. And then when I went backpacking, me, Chris, and Harold went backpacking to this place called Thousand Island Lakes. And it was
I love those pictures.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a cool place, but, like, all I saw when I was looking up was, like, a still lake with, like, the reflection of all these mountains and going up there. And when we were there, it was, like, windy enough to where the lake was never still. Even like at 5 a.m., it wasn't still.
Oh,
and I was like, man, you just have to come up here on the perfect condition in order to get that shot. Because I really wanted to get that shot. But that time I decided I was going to leave my camera
and
equipment
Micah,
at home.
that's part of being a good photographer as well. Is part of that creative thought process happening and preparing.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you miss it, but you knew what what you wanted it to be looking like.
Yeah.
It wasn't there. So it was probably a big hike though. So you can't just.
Oh
go
my
back.
gosh. It was we brought moose with us. It was a lot of wrong. We ended up hiking the wrong way, but it was 3,000 feet up in 3 miles.
Oh,
and
yeah.
For some reason we really we underestimated how hard it would be.
Oh.
And then we got to the point where all of us are we take 5-6 steps and then just stop. Take 5-6 steps.
Wow.
Stop. And it took us.
You young guys.
It took us I want to say 9 to 10 hours to hike 5 miles. And
wow.
we were trying to get to the very top over the lake, and then we looked at Errol was like, no, we could do it, and then finally it was 5 o'clock, and we're like, hey, we got to set up camp. We got to start doing setting up before it gets dark. But it's just one of those things where I didn't even bring my camera with me that time.
Oh.
But I was glad I didn't, just because sometimes especially when you're backpacking, it's not worth it to take the extra 5 pounds.
I know,
of
that's
camera
the thing,
gear.
right?
In the contrary to that, when I did Half Dome, did you watch my Half Dome video?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved it.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was just wanted to.
That was so amazing, Micah. That inspires me. But just watching you, knowing that you had to run up, run back, run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I set up my camera on a tripod and I walked 20 yards and then run
cool.
20 yards back and grab my cammer. But I did that all the way to the top of Half Dome. And I really thought it would be a little more popular. I thought it'd be a little more popular on YouTube, but whatever.
People can't appreciate that hard work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's my thing.
Wow.
It's at first I was like, oh, maybe I should make it a shorter video. And I'm like, no, if you're hiking Half Dome, it's a video. So for those of you listening, and I know you've heard me talk about it on the podcast, but it's a video of people for if you're older and you can't hike Half Dome, or if you're younger and you can never hike Half Dome, you could watch this video and it takes you through every single step of the way of climbing Half Dome. And there's not another video like it, on the internet. So that's what inspired me to do it. But as soon as we got to the backpackers camp, I was halfway through, I was cramping up. I couldn't even walk. Lindsay was making me liquid IV, and I was chugging it. I chugged 2 packets. But it was I'm glad I did it, but it was one of those things where when I was doing it, I was like, am I even should I even do it? And then when I got home, I didn't edit the footage for 3 months. I was just you know what I mean? That's gonna be a whole investment of time. I need to chill for a while. And then finally 3 months later, I ended up posting it.
We were out having a beer at the Tarmac one night, and Tom came, and he's like, have you guys seen Micah's Half Dome video? He said, I should give him money. It was so good. Has he given you any money?
No, he hasn't. Tom Siverly?
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, he commented on it. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I had even Mr. Whitmire, a couple other people randomly reached out to me. They're like, oh, that was a great video.
Yes.
And I'm like, thank you. Just getting some feedback from people saying that they enjoyed it. It's that's all I needed.
It was very impressive.
Obviously, you could say people want views and stuff like that. Everyone likes and views and stuff. But what I like more is when someone reaches out to me saying that I don't know, and they're like, hey, I listen to your podcast, I really like it, or I like this episode, or I'm like, oh, will you listen to it? You know what I mean? That's what I like more. Obviously, your friends and family, they tell you they like it, and that's great and everything, but it kind of means more to you when you hear it from somebody who you didn't expect to be listening, or
or even a peer, that you might know of or admire.
Exactly, because I've had people reach out to me who are from Merced but moved away, and they're like, "Oh wait, I listen to your podcast to see what's going on." I'm like, "Oh wow, that's awesome." I'm like, I didn't even think about that being an outlet for that, but that's an outlet for that as well. Well, Karel, I enjoyed this conversation a lot. It was really fun and interesting. Yes. So I just appreciate you for being here, and thank you for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Micah.
I'll shake your hand, Karel. Oh. There we go.
Fellow photographer.
Fellow photographers. All righty. This is it. Real talk and whatnot.
Real talk. That's it. Real talk.